from Nebraska.
Hey, it's Gary from New York.
Hi, Gary.
Hi, Gary.
Dave and Michael Henley.
Carol, why don't you just greet the Meachers? You know a lot of them.
Hi.
I wore my pin, but no tie.
I'm so excited to be here, and I thank Books for Africa, and I thank you so much for inviting me to this interesting session. I'm happy to see Travis, Carol, Thomas, and our president. I'm so excited, and yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I'm from Kenya and a beneficiary for Books for Africa into Kenya.
And we met Winnie when she was a Mandela Fellow at the University of Minnesota Humphrey School.
Hey,
Great to
Winnie,
see
this
you,
shirt
Winnie.
is made in Kenya.
Sorry?
I said, my shirt is made in Kenya.
Oh.
Wow, wow. Great.
We have the
Greetings.
ambassador on.
I'm going to say hello to Genevieve
Yeah.
with the Ghana Book Trust. That's awesome. You can join us.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone. Hello, Pat. It's great to have joined this meeting this evening.
And
Excellent.
welcome, Ambassador.
Thank you very much.
May we have the ambassador's video, please?
Video.
Well, this is a much larger group than our normal in-person meetings. I see we have Lane Ayers and Jesse Oakey and John Elstad and Frank Babka, all kinds of great supporters from Books for Africa. And
Natalie from all
Natalie.
these years, Natalie, thank you so much, all the support.
Yeah.
You're looking great.
Hi, Natalie.
Yeah.
Hi. Great to see you.
You too.
Excellent. Well, I think others are probably going to join us as we go along. But I'll leave it to you, Joni.
Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everybody. I was going to say this, good afternoon, but I realize that there are people from all over the world here on this call, so I will just say welcome. I'm Joni Sussman. I'm the president of Books for Africa. I'm delighted to welcome you today to our Ambassador Circle meeting. We will have the privilege of hearing from Ambassador Lazarus Kambabwe of Zambia and other distinguished speakers. If everyone could please mute their microphones, I think it's going to be a little bit easier. Zoom is tricky in that way, so thank you. We very much appreciate our Ambassador Circle members. You help us raise funds to reach our goal of ending the book famine in Africa. In this, the year of delivering our 50 millionth book. So thank you. A bit of housekeeping. We're going to be having a limited question and answer period at the end of this meeting. If you'd like to ask a question, please type it into the chat function in Zoom. Hopefully you know how to do that. And then we will answer as many questions as we can at the end of the meeting. And now, it is my great privilege to introduce Ambassador Lazarus Kambabwe, the 17th Ambassador of the Republic of Zambia to the United States. He took office in January 2020. Mr. Kambabwe served as Ambassador and Permanent Representative of Zambia to the United Nations in New York from June 2007 to December 2019. Prior to that, he served as Zambia's Ambassador to Ethiopia and the African Union. He also was Permanent Secretary of the Ministry for Foreign Affairs, after serving as Deputy Permanent Secretary responsible for Asia, Africa, and the Middle East. He also served as Director for Africa and the Organization of African Unity Affairs. It's quite a resume. During his career, Mr. Kambabwe has represented Zambia in major multilateral and regional meetings of the United Nations, the Organization of African Unity, the African Union, the Southern African Development Community, the Common Market for Eastern and Southern Africa, Great Lakes region, and the Intergovernmental Authority for Development. Mr. Kambabwe received a bachelor's degree in political economy from the University of Zambia. He has a postgraduate diploma in international relations from Nairobi University in Kenya and a certificate in contemporary American politics from New York University. Welcome, Mr. Ambassador.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to everybody. Unfortunately, I cannot see myself, so I'm not sure whether you are able to see me. Is everybody able to see me?
No.
Okay. All right.
There.
There. Thank you very much, everybody. I would like to begin by thanking all of you for joining in this afternoon. To the board president for Books for Africa, Johnny Sussman, the executive director, Patrick Plonsky, the board members, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, in your respective capacities. It's a pleasure to be with you all in this annual meeting. From the outset, let me just make sure I adjust this correctly. Yeah. From the outset, let me commend you, the President, and your board for the wonderful and life-transforming work that you have been doing. Life-transforming because the business of books is an integral part of human history, and one that helps shape our lives daily. Books play an important role in our personal lives, families, and engagement with society. Books are like our lifeblood, and they contain a sea of knowledge covering diverse subjects. Books teach us. Books inspire us. They encourage us. They give us hope. They build our faith. They shape our intellect and act as a guide to our future. From 1988, that is a total of 32 years, Books for Africa has shipped 50 million books to all 55 countries on the continent of Africa. That is a huge and admirable milestone. It is an enormous way to help transform minds and positively shape the lives of many people across Africa. There is a simple but important maxim that you may be familiar with. It says,
We appear to be having some technical difficulties on the sound.
oh, really? Can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I was saying that if education is the future, it goes, therefore, that what forms the core of educating people, a book, should be at the core of that system. And that is what Books for Africa has done, providing books. The importance of shipping 50 million books to Africa has placed this organization right at the heart of Africa's development. I would therefore like to commend you and encourage you to keep up with this noble work. These millions of books you have placed at the disposal of African learners have allowed many of them to travel to countless parts of the world without leaving their homes. They have experienced scenarios and gained insight into many subjects in other lands without physically traveling there. Books have provided them the imagination, the images, the knowledge, the joy of learning other cultures, enjoyment of seeing the world, wisdom, and has given them a new perspective of life. These books have helped shape a strong educational system across many countries in Africa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, friends, the provision of millions of books to Africa is so important in educating many of our people. It is when the people have an education that more and more opportunities open up for them to advance individually and are able to break the poverty cycle and help transform not only their personal lives, the lives of their families and communities, but are able to apply themselves to global development trends that can advance the entire continent of Africa. It is true that today, technological advancement has transformed how we access information and how we read. It is recognized and widely agreed by many of us that technology will continue to advance and to change the world. But one thing that will remain constant and hopefully never change is the importance of books and the importance of reading. We hope that that does not change. And there lies the continued importance of organizations such as Books for Africa. They will continue to play that ever important role to provide these books that are a pillar for education. That education remains important, especially in developing countries across Africa that still require millions of these books every year. Today, despite many challenges that people face, the world is literally racing with development. Africa is in that race. That race requires knowledge for the African teachers, for the learners, for the specialists, and for the skilled workers to compete and ensure that the future of the continent is secured. That knowledge requires books. However, they may not be easily accessible on the continent. Books for Africa has helped fill that gap. That is why I urge you to carry on with this great work. And I know that your efforts are made possible by various partners that support your work and that make various contributions to help you attain your goal of shipping millions more books to Africa. We are all counting 50 million over the last 32 years. A commendable milestone, if I may repeat. Here is best wishes and all the encouragement and support to counting towards the 100 millionth book over the coming years. There is a story that I like to share about the importance of books. I am what I am because I was inspired by stories of fellow children in different countries, countries that I have never been to, that I never dreamt that I will ever visit. But through the books, through their stories, I was inspired to love school through the love of reading. And many in my continent, in my country, are in the same situation. Without the books, we would not be where we are today. And I believe that is true of everyone who is on the panel today, and indeed many others that are to follow us. I wish you all the very best, and may God bless you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ambassador. We so appreciate your comments and your support of Books for Africa. I'm so glad that you're able to join us today, and hopefully you'll be able to stay through the rest of the meeting so we could have a question or two for you at the end, if that works for you.
Sure. That's
next,
fine with me.
Thank you. Next, we have our Executive Director, Patrick Plonsky, to give us an update on Books for Africa. Pat?
Thank you, Joni, and thank you, Your Excellency, Mr. Ambassador, for those inspiring remarks. You said it far better than certainly I could have, so thank you for that. And thank you for everyone for being here. We have, I see 60 participants from all over the United States and indeed all over the world. This is the biggest and best Ambassador Circle meeting we've ever had. So thank you everyone for participating. You really all are our key audience. You're the ones that make it happen. So on this call today in this meeting are ambassadors who are, you're all ambassadors for a reason. It's because of what you are doing to help Books for Africa. So thank you to all of you ambassadors. Thank you to the board members on this call who help guide our organization and provide support in all kinds of ways. And thank you to all of the Kilimanjaro Society members. You are our top donors. So thank you everyone for making it happen. As the ambassador so eloquently noted, we are on the cusp of sending our 50 millionth book in several weeks to Africa. That's over 32 years. So we need to get going on the next 50 million, and we will start immediately. Books for Africa's work never ends. We never sleep. And we'll start that first thing next year, and with all of your help. So thank you for that. I'm going to make just some brief remarks here, and then if you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat function. And there's a question and answer period. So if you have a question about anything or a statement, there'll be time for that. And we're happy to talk in more detail about these things. But I'll just give you the highlights for where things stand at Books for Africa at this point in time. So we're very happy that we're on the cusp of sending the 50 millionth book. We had an event in September that raised over $400,000 thanks to support from so many of you. And that's enough to send 20 containers of books, I think about 20 containers. So it far, far exceeded our expectations. So thank you everyone for your help with that. We continue to do everything we can to enhance our offerings at Books for Africa. So for example, just in the last several weeks and months, we have sent French books from Montreal in Canada, and also from Paris to Francophone West Africa. We have sent Somali children's books to Somalia. We have sent Spanish language books to Equatorial Guinea. And all of that is in addition to the normal everyday packing of English language books. And last year we sent about 3.7 million books valued at, I believe, something like $37 million. So it's a volume operation run on a shoestring. As you all know, 50 cents sends a book to a child in Africa. And it's rare to find a nonprofit that can identify something that they can do with 50 cents. Sometimes immunizations can make that boast. So we're very happy to be a scale operation, a volume operation. We're also very proud of our efficiency. And we're always, as I said, looking for ways to enhance our offerings. We've already sent over 3 million digital books in addition to the 50 million approximately hard copy books. We are also working with Masterclass and Audible.com. Stay tuned for that. We are making some of those offerings. I know the Ghana Book Trust is on this call, and I think some offerings have been made there. Masterclass is a fabulous content provider, as is Audible.com. It's all about providing people with what they want. So our bread and butter remains hard copy books because they are so efficient, they're so durable, and they're the easiest, cheapest way to get books into the hands of readers across the African continent. But we have digital and lots of other things for people who want them, and if we can provide them. Like I said, 50 cents will send a book to a child in Africa, but our goal this year is to send 3.1 million books this fiscal year. And so that's a lot of books. It requires large-scale partnerships to make these things happen. So some of you are providing books. I know Better World Books is on this call. They provide us with huge quantities of books, and many of you are helping in all kinds of ways. We're always looking for additional partnership opportunities. So, for example, we've received over $1 million from Merck over the last several years. We thank Gary Zelko, who's on this call, for facilitating that. We're putting together a proposal for another $150,000 and a new initiative on medical libraries that we're going to roll out. This will be in addition to the Law and Democracy Initiative, which sends law libraries. Special thanks to Thomson Reuters for that. We also provide agricultural natural resources libraries and a women's empowerment collection. So, it's all about giving people what they want, and so that Merck proposal is important. We're also working with the state of Qatar. Hopefully it's going to be $1 million proposal. We're talking to them, and so in the year 2021, we hope to gain some traction on that. We're working with the U.S. Congress and our local member of Congress, Betty McCollum, and the U.S. Department of Defense to enhance the humanitarian assistance program. And so we're trying to beef up, Betty on our behalf is trying to beef up that program by about $1 million, and then that would provide donated freight. So that's an important large-scale project that we're working on. And of course, the Read To initiative in Ethiopia, we just wrapped that up recently, and we sent hundreds of thousands of books to Ethiopia over the last several years under that USAID initiative. So those are just some of the larger scale initiatives we're working on. In addition, engagement with the African diaspora is key. I'm so pleased to see we have so many Africans or members of the African diaspora on this call. That's key to our success in our activity. We need the help and the guidance and the support of the African communities to make sure what we're doing makes sense. Are these books helpful in Africa? What can we do that's more helpful? How do we engage with those communities? So, for example, next month, Books for Africa will be participating in 2 large-scale diaspora conferences. One, the National African Immigrant Leadership Conference, based out of Minnesota, and the other, the African Diaspora Symposium that's being run out of Kenya. So that's just a couple of conferences and symposiums we're working on. It's all about engaging with the key audience at Books for Africa, and many of you represent those key audiences, so thank you. COVID, well, you can't talk about 2020 without talking about COVID. We're still here. We're still in the fight. COVID has reduced our activity across the board. There are less books, unfortunately, because many of the books are stuck in schools, and so there's less activity in schools, so we're not able to get those books as much as we want. There's less money, less donations due to some financial dislocation, and there are fewer volunteers because of restrictions on larger groups. But through it all, we keep going. We have kept going, and we will continue to work towards our goal to ship this fiscal year $3.1 million, 3.1 million books. We're at about 1 million books so far this fiscal year. So, if you keep working at this year after year, you'll hit something like 50 million books. That's what we found out. So thank you, everyone, for your help on that. we are leasing a new warehouse in Atlanta. In fact, we've taken possession of it, and we signed a 5-year lease. So we fully expect to be here and continue shipping books for the future. If we didn't, we would not have signed that 5-year lease. And so it's a fabulous facility. It's a scale facility. It's about the operational size as our current facility. The lease ran out, and so we needed a new facility. And we shopped around and to save some dollars and actually have a warehouse that will save us some dollars. And over 5 years, it will save us several $100,000 over the current facility. But the lease was up on the current facility anyway. So, and then last but not least, our end of year effort, you may have already gotten some of the emails and mailings. Our end of the year effort is key. If you listen to Minnesota Public Radio or Georgia Public Radio, you will hear ads. You will be getting further information from Books for Africa. The end of the year effort is key to donors. Approximately 30% of our money will come in from individual donors at the end of the year. So thank you everyone for your generosity, and we appreciate it, and we continue to ask for it and hope to remain worthy of your support. Last but not least, today's Give to the Max Day. Our special initiative for today is to support a school in South Africa. It's an initiative of the Association of University Women, I believe, if I'm saying that correctly. And they've raised about $10,000, so we want to top off that container. We're trying to raise at least $5,000 today to top that off and send that container off to South Africa. So if you haven't given to anyone, or even if you have, we appreciate your support today. Give to the Max Day, and hopefully you've all gotten an email on that exploring, outlining how you can give, and appreciate your support. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here and turn it back to Joni, our president, and stand for questions later in this program if there are any. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Pat. That was very great to hear the update of what our organization is doing. It's always inspiring to hear the number of projects that we have going and the kinds of things that we can do. The next person up is going to be our Kilimanjaro Society member and container captain, Louis Brownstone. And Pat, would you like to give us a little bit of information about what Louis has been doing?
I think Aaron Yates has really been working with Louis so much more closer than I. I know Louis has been working on a number of projects across Africa. He's going to be talking about the Kenya project today, but he has been a tremendous supporter of Books for Africa and working on a number of projects all over Africa. We really appreciate his support, and not only his personal support, he has empowered others and a lot of givers in his network to provide support. And Aaron, I'll turn it over. Did I miss anything? Aaron works with Louis arranging shipments much more than I do. So Aaron, help me out here.
Yeah, working with Louis is wonderful because he loves to fundraise for shipments for projects, but he is incredibly flexible with what we do. So his fundraising has allowed us to send containers to groups who otherwise would not have been able to receive a container. So just, I believe the first shipment was in 2016 to Tanzania. And then in 2019, we actually sent 2 containers to Kenya, which Louis will update you on, but he brought together so many people to receive books. One of the groups that was able to receive books in this shipment was actually based in Dadaab refugee camp in Kenya, in northern Kenya. And it would have been very rare and difficult for us to send a whole container to Dadaab without the support of Louis. So that was such a really cool project to be a part of. Moving forward in the upcoming year, we're actually going to be sending at least 3 more containers under Louis's project. Destination as of yet undetermined, but I'm really excited to see what we come up with together. So I'm just really excited to see pictures and hear from Lewis. So thank you, Lewis.
Sounds good. Thanks so much for the kind introduction. It's been such a pleasure to work with all of you. And it's quite impressive how you're such a great enabler to have others join in your cause. So let's see, I'm going to share my screen. Do I have authority? Is sharing on in the Zoom call? It is.
Yes,
okay,
you should
perfect.
be able to use it at the bottom navigation there.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. Can everybody see my screen all right? All right, I've got some pictures and some video. We'll see how the video comes through, but we'll give it our best shot here. So just from an agenda standpoint, I've 15 minutes here. I'll try to keep it within that time frame, a little introduction about me. And I was trying to gear this a little bit towards other container captains or experienced Books for Africa people, some things I might have done a little differently from others and something we can learn from. So talk a little bit about the process we went through, a little bit about the different partners we aligned with in Kenya, the route that we went on. I went and visited all the partners and was part of the book's distribution. A video that Matt Erickson over in Nairobi put together, which was pretty outstanding, which he got over to me earlier this morning. And then I'll share some pictures and videos from the specific locations and some lessons learned that I picked up along the way now doing a couple of these projects. So I am actually just a business person, was based out of Chicago, currently moving west. I'm in Taos, New Mexico right now, trying to shelter in place, working remote. But I volunteered in Tanzania 10 years ago. I worked for a little NGO, lived with a family for 3 months, and I wanted to give back. I heard about NPR, Books for Africa on NPR, gave a call into the general hotline number and just immediately fell in love with the organization. I was working a bit on some consulting with Follett at the time. And so that some of the members over at Follett that were active, I was able to kind of talk about Books for Africa, and that got me a little bit more engaged. As far as the process that I went through, really we went through, I think was a little different is, I don't have set organizations in Africa that I'm working with. So put together an RFP, a request for proposal, that Aaron and Books for Africa, as well as some people in my network, we were able to distribute that out. And then I would say out of that RFP, which had pretty basic questions such as, what are you going to do with the books? What's the infrastructure that you have today? What does your budget look like? What does your organization look like? Things like that. What's a project plan? And I would say out of that, maybe we got 15 different proposals with very wide ranges of organization and plan. And I'd say out of that 15, I probably interviewed maybe 8 or so on Skype calls, and then landed on 6 organizations to work with. But I think something I learned from my first project is how important it is to align with the right partner on the ground. And I wanted to spend extra time making sure I was working with the right group. So I'd say that was a very important piece. Then the next piece is with these 6 different groups, we went through the books order forms. They all put together their proposals, and then I paired that down to get to the 60,000 target number of books that we had. And then I'd say the next big kind of lesson learned for me was we set up bi-weekly Zoom group calls with all 6 organizations, and that probably went for a couple months. And we talked about everything from logistics, how we were going to warehouse the books, the media plan, travel, the book ceremony. And it also created a really nice team and collaborative environment among all these 6 organizations that, none of us knew each other, but clearly working together and cooperating was going to make the overall project much better. So I'd say a lot of that pre-work that we were doing with Zoom calls and enabling technology made the project go a lot better when I arrived for the distribution. So the different partners that we worked with, the 6, the biggest, which Aaron mentioned, was Refugee Youth Education Hub. And that's an amazing story. Abdullahi was born in the Dadaab refugee camp. And for those that don't know, it's a refugee camp just inside Kenya on the border with Somalia. There's about 200,000 people that live there. It's been there for 20 some odd years. And so many of the young people have never been to Somalia if they're from Somalia. There's also a group of South Sudanese that are there. But Abdullahi was born there. He received a scholarship to go to university in Norway, moved back to Nairobi as a journalist, and he wanted to give back to his home community. And so Erin actually met him on one of her trips, I believe, or through online, but she put us in contact. And he was one that in the RFP, he just did an outstanding job of outlining his plans and what was needed. Another Shoe for Africa, Toby Tanzer is a Swedish professional runner who was actually, he fell in love with Kenya and tragically was attacked in Kenya. Actually, he was in Tanzania. He was in Zanzibar. He was attacked for the shoes that he was running with. And he was actually almost passed away, but was overcome with the need that someone would commit such a crime for somebody's shoes that once he retired as a runner, kind of committed his life to supporting those in need. So he runs kind of marathon teams around the world and does fundraising. And right now he's got a hospital in E10 that serves over 400 children per day. It's an incredible organization that he's put together. The third group, Pamoja Library, Terry was born in Meru in Kenya, got a scholarship in the United States to go to university, lives in DC, but she built a library in her home village, and she didn't have the resources to fill up the library with books. But I'd say that was a good example of, there was a lot of good infrastructure in place. The library was built, there was some form of shelving, there was a librarian, but a lack of books. So she had a very clear plan in her proposal of what she wanted to do with the books, so it really fit nicely. And then Maktabas, Gerald, also born in Nairobi, he works in San Francisco, but he's funneling containers of books constantly to Kenya. It's a really impressive organization. And then 2 smaller orphanages. But so I'd say quite a diverse group of organizations, with the bulk of the books going to the Dadaab and to the Children's Hospital. So what I did is when I landed in Nairobi, we flew with a UN chartered flight to Dadaab. That's a requirement to get there. I'll share some videos about the Dadaab trip, pretty remarkable. And then from there, from Nairobi, we did a big road trip. I was with Gerald, the head of Maktabas, and we drove up to Ghana, which was Meru, to Nakuru, Kisumu, and Eldoret and E10. But also, what a wonderful trip for me to be a part of and see all of Kenya along the way. So I'm going to try to share a video here, and let's see if this works. But is this coming through okay?
Came across Books for Africa on an NPR story, and I called in to the general hotline, and I learned about how great Books for Africa is and wanted to support the mission of providing books to those in need in Africa.
I'm happy this morning because we are receiving a high delegation of our friends, donors who made possible for the Dadaab Book Drive to start a library, a working library in Dadaab.
We had an amazing event with speeches, plays. BBC was there. Lots of selfies. Even a student gave a piece of art to me as a gift.
So my name is Louis. Thank you so much for welcoming us here. It means so much for all of us to see your appreciation and how much you care. This project is a dream of mine. One of my dreams is leaving the world better than when I found it, to have some positive impact on the world. And when I'm old, I want to think back about my life and realize I made a positive difference on the world. And that's where this books project started to come from.
I'm very grateful to receive these such books which we highly needed for our education. Once again, thank you so much.
And it was really a team of many different people people here in Kenya, people in the United States, that all come together to support you and to be here. We're hoping that these books will support you with whatever you want to do, but this is a pathway to help you achieve your dreams. So thank you so much for welcoming us here. It means so much to me.
Another great moment was the Shoot for Africa Children's Hospital and being there on Christmas Eve. We gave books and toys to the students that were in the hospital, and I did that along with several Olympic athletes, some silver medalists, and some world record holders. All the students, all the children were all seated in one area, and they set up a chair and they invited me to read a short story to all the children. It was unexpected and very moving.
Was the stable out in the lamplit gloom.
I would love to continue to put on similar types of projects of giving books. You know, so far I've been a part of donating around 80,000 books. We're working on another shipment of 100,000, and would like to continue working with Books for Africa and other local organizations in Africa to get the books to those in need.
Okay, I hope that came through all right over Zoom, and it wasn't too choppy there. And so let's see here. So shifting gears here, I think something that's probably interesting for everybody, what it's like to go to a refugee camp, and what the Dadaab trip was like. And so, you know, certainly from a security standpoint, I'd never been in that sort of environment. And you know, once we landed on the UN plane, we met with the security briefing team. It was in a guarded compound with the UN. And, you know, the security team had to approve all our movements. We had guards with us whenever we left the camp, and we went into Dadaab. So that was certainly something different for me. But the UN was incredibly supportive of the program. We gave a presentation to kind of the UN staff one evening about Books for Africa that I think was well received. And so day one, we visited the secondary school. We met some of the teachers. We went to a professional training organization. And then day two was kind of the EFO secondary school ceremony that you saw. And then unfortunately, you know, due to some security issues, we weren't allowed to leave the UN compound on day three. I guess when there's foreigners that are in the camp, it's kind of well known and kind of limits limits how much you're able to move around outside the UN zone. But it was incredibly unique and rewarding experience, and I really appreciate being able to go, and all that Books for Africa was able to do to help me make that happen. So I would say, I think kind of running out of time here. So I'd say some lessons learned for me looking back on this project is really finding the right organizations to work with, and how to find those A+ partners to align with. Then for me, it's much easier to align with organizations that have existing book infrastructure, a library, some racks, maybe a librarian, something, as opposed to a group that is starting from scratch. I think I'm trying to be realistic about what I'm able to do from the United States. And I'd rather be very successful with a smaller scope than overextend and you know, things get out of control. I'd say a question that I have is, should the organizations commit some funds themselves? Or, you know, it felt like there was a couple groups that, you know, they donated some money for, let's say, the last mile shipping, some small piece of it, and it drove a little bit more accountability. Then there were some others that didn't have any funds, and we kind of did everything. It just didn't feel like they were as on board and dedicated to making the projects happen. So I think that's something for me to think about next time. And then for book selection purposes, the first project I did, it was mainly math and science textbooks. And we've just been hearing that it's harder for the teachers to work with some of those more advanced books. And there was more use out of the more basic books and some of the reading and literature books. So that's also something that we're wrestling around with. It was a wonderful project. I had an absolutely fantastic time, one of the best experiences of my life. And I'm looking forward to doing more similar types of projects in the future. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Louis. That was absolutely inspiring to see how you put these projects together, and we appreciate what you're doing for Books for Africa to helping us get our books to the African continent. So thank you so much. Next, we'll hear from Tom Worth, our esteemed founder. Tom?
All right,
Tom, you're muted. Tom? Tom, you're muted.
I shouldn't be muted now.
Good.
You're good now, Tom. My apologies, that was me.
I'm sorry if I'm shouting at you. My wife says I shout at her too much. So, anyway, I can't hear if you're laughing or applauding. So anyway, Louis, that is such a moving presentation. And, you know, I want to tell all of you, you know, Books for Africa wouldn't be around if it wasn't for partners like Louis. I mean, really, I mean, some of you have just done a small amount and given a little money. Some of you have raised a lot of money. Some of you have sent a container, and some of you have sent many containers. I mean, it just takes all of you. You know, some of you well, a lot of you I recognize, and some of you have been around longer than we care to talk about. I see someone at the top of the screen who climbed Kilimanjaro with me. But anyway, I wish times were different and we could shake hands. But on the other hand, this Zoom thing, we have someone in Bedford, England. We have someone out on the West Coast. We have someone in Africa. You know, if we had a in-person meeting, we wouldn't have this experience. So welcome all of you, and I wish I could reach out and shake your hands. I usually go through this routine of saying, you know, we can't rest on our laurels. You know, we do spend time patting ourselves on the back, but I just looked on a site which keeps up with populations, and the population of Africa is now 1.34 billion people. Imagine, you know, this organization has seen the continent's population pass 1 billion. I used to say there were 400 million children and then 500 million, but if we think nearly half the population is youth who need books, it's now 600 million. We have to do more. We're patting ourselves on the back for sending 50 million books, but we have to do more, and it's partners like you that are helping us do it, and spread the word, please. One thing you can do, I'm just reminded by the lady from Bedford that you know, there's a lot of projects. Go to the projects page on the Books for Africa site and look at the countries where there are projects, and it's very interesting. Because the way it works is if a container captain can raise 1,000, get the first 1,000, they can have a project page, but then they've got to raise the rest of the money. And of course, if it's an inland area like Uganda or something, it's a lot of money. But look at the sites where a fair amount of money has been raised, and you can help by topping that off or giving a little more money. You know, it's very rewarding if someone's at, you know, 8,000 and they need 10,000. Some of you, you know, give $50 and others can give 1,000. So please help with that. What else? How's my time? we need a few more questions, but before I go on, I want a little local news. Those of you, one of the key people in this organization is Erin, and some of you may not know that Erin is getting married. We can all applaud, although she won't hear it. Erin, congratulations. I hope COVID doesn't totally interfere with your marriage plans next month, but congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Okay, so here we're getting some questions now, and this is to our ambassador. What is the potential of the new continental African free trade area? How long before we will see results, in your opinion, Ambassador? Are you muted, or can you unmute, Ambassador, if you're listening?
Yes, I'm listening.
Okay, did you hear the question?
Just about the potential of the free trade area, and how long can we expect this to be in place?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I happened to have been, in one of my previous lives, I happened to have been the economic advisor to the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. And it was while in that administration that we came up with what is now called Agenda 2063. And the CFTA, the African Continental Free Trade Area, is one of the 12 flagship projects of the African Union. And I must say that when we left the African Union Commission in 2017, 3 years ago, we had just launched the CFTA. And in the 3 years that have passed, I think we have more than half of the countries of Africa that have signed on and ratified the CFTA. And so I believe that looking at how international trade agreements, how long trade agreements generally take before they get ratified, I think the speed at which the CFTA is moving is quite fast. So I am very optimistic, and I wouldn't think that I'll be too much off the line in thinking that in the next 2 years, all the 55 member states of the African Union will have signed on to the CFTA, and especially that now we have a headquarters that has been established in Accra, Ghana. So I am optimistic that within these 2 years, we should be able to fully begin to benefit from the continental free trade area.
Thank you. Thank you, Ambassador. So we have another question here. At a high level, how has the current COVID environment altered the Books for Africa funding strategy and shipping, processing, logistics to various African regions? Maybe Carol can give a brief answer, and Erin. Carol? Are you muted, Carol? Carol's smiling, but...
Now I am unmuted. So this is Moya's question. At a high level, how has the current COVID environment altered the BFA funding strategy and shipping, processing, logistics to various African regions? Correct?
Okay.
At a high level, our demand certainly has not gone down. It's only gone up. We have Pam on this meeting, and Pam Papastanek was in Rwanda, and she heard from teachers, and this is just as the COVID restrictions were being imposed, and the teachers were desperate for books, and it was such a privilege that they could send books home with students. Only a minuscule minority of teachers across Africa would have the ability to send books home with students during COVID. So it's not that our shipping process or logistics have changed, it's just that, as Aaron could speak to better than I, from port to port, there may have been complications that slowed the delivery of books down. In Atlanta, of course, there were some weeks of restrictions on volunteers that slowed down our packing. And we're catching up, especially because so many containers got funded during our September event. And as far as the funding strategy, we definitely need the help of big players to deliver multi-numbered container projects to very capable partners. So we have Genevieve at Ghana Book Trust on this call. That's an example of funding that we consistently renew to leverage partnerships, whether that's from Masterclass, World Reader, MoneyGram, to deliver numbers of containers so that we're keeping fresh books constantly rotating through these communities. So that's really key, is that we use our high-level resources to distribute via partners who are doing this all the time and can anticipate any problem areas and hopefully avoid any more slowdowns. Whereas an individual receiving a container for the first time who may have never cleared a container might experience more of these bureaucratical slowdowns that we're concerned about right now, because we want those who have the most need in the world to get access to resources as they become funded and become available.
Thank you, Carol. Erin, can you make a brief comment about how COVID's affecting the shipping? And then we've got a few more questions before we close.
You know, I would say that the biggest impact that we're dealing with very immediately right now is that many of the groups that donate books to us are unable to do so. Schools don't really have the bandwidth to go through their curriculums and make donations of, you know, entire truckloads of books like they have in the past. So that has been problematic for us. The shipping situation is relatively back to normal, I would say, but procurement is very much affected by this.
All right, thank you. And from Natalie Hahn, our longtime donor and supporter, Rotarian from Nebraska. Besides digital books, what is the plan for more iPads and other digital books? The main donor, maybe Pat or Joni? Pat?
Yeah, yes, I can jump in here. Yeah, there is some demand for things like iPads and laptops and desktops. Right now, we have not secured them for free, so we did just secure delivery into our warehouse here. I think it was something like 150 computers, but those are refurbished computers, but we did pay a fee for them. And so, you know, if we got them for free, we would send them for free. So we continue to look for someone who would provide that free of charge. And it's sort of like the Holy Grail, getting free computers and free pads for people to use, tablets rather. But you know, I think in many cases, the content we can provide, it's getting the hardware for people to use effectively. And I know that and other things that were mentioned in questions like Zoom classes. I think if people had the capacity to utilize Zoom, let's say on a tablet or on a computer, that would, you know, I think they can figure it out kind of like the rest of us. So we continue to work on that. But yeah, it would be awesome if we could get large quantities of donated tablets and computers. We would send a lot more of them, I think, and load them all with content.
Okay, I think what we should do is Joni is going to close our meeting, but we've got more time on Zoom. So those of you who want to stay, and there's a couple more questions, can just hang out and leave as you feel like leaving. We won't be offended. But Joni, do you want to say a few closing words, and then I'll take over questions again?
Yes, and we do want to be, considerate of people's time. We appreciate your taking the time to join this meeting this afternoon of the Ambassador Circle. I want to thank our speakers, Ambassador Kampabwe, Louis Brownstone, Patrick, Tom. This has been great to have an update, and we really thank everybody for coming and joining us today. As Tom says, feel free to stay on the Zoom call if you'd like to hear a bit more or to ask some additional questions. For those of you who are getting off the call at this time, please stay well and enjoy the rest of your day or evening, depending on where you are. And we very much appreciate everything that you do for Books for Africa. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone, and good evening, good afternoon, good morning. And so we have another question here from Frank. Frank Babker, who's a big supporter over many, many years, and I've known him for a long time, local man. Is the new warehouse in Atlanta also in the Smyrna area, the northwest suburbs? Who can answer that? Pat?
Yeah, I can comment on that briefly. The new warehouse will be in Marietta, which is still reasonably close to the main downtown area. I believe my knowledge of Atlanta isn't as good as it should be, but I believe it's on the other end of the perimeter. So the issue with Atlanta and warehousing is Atlanta is so large and the traffic is so formidable that there's special situations that one considers for things like volunteers, especially, and also, for holding events. Like if we have an event, where's the best place to have it? And sometimes people, can be in their cars a long time to get to those sorts of events. So those are all considerations. Also, we ended up picking the warehouse that we did based on a number of factors. It had to be the right size, which was relatively small as far as warehousing goes. It had to be located pretty close to the downtown area. And then while it's in an office park, it had to be in a safe office park for the safety of our staff and volunteers. And of course, the cost factor, it had to be within our price range. So we were very happy with what we ended up with in meeting all those factors.
Okay, and now we have from Dr. Fatima Lawson. Is it that the teachers are having a hard time understanding the books, textbooks sent, or is the subject matter too hard for the students to comprehend? Louis, I think this was probably triggered by one of your comments, but here's the thing, the books need to go to the right institutions, and of course we can't always control the right level of the right books going to the right institutions, but Pat, maybe you can respond to that one.
Yeah, that's an issue that comes up a lot of times, and I know Dr. Lawson is an educator, and she asked the right question. If you as an educator, all of a sudden, you haven't had books, and all of a sudden you get a lot of books in, and you're not familiar with using them, how do you, as an instructor, use this, build it into your curriculum? And it is a challenge. And maybe I've got, others maybe can comment more. It's something that we have tried to address as best we can, but maybe some others, I know maybe Genevieve with the Ghana Book Trust maybe has some advice or additional thoughts. We do what we can on this and provide things like what do we call it, a handbook for new book recipients to try to provide some tips and advice on how to use these books. But I'm going to maybe, Genevieve, do you have any comments from the Ghana Book Trust on usability of books and how to make it so that instructors can use them better?
Click the unmute. Unmute. I think you're muted. There's a button in the bottom left-hand corner that works.
maybe while she's trying to unmute herself, I can just let people know if you're newer
Okay.
to the, oh, go right ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. What we do is people make the request for the books, and most of them are from the schools because in Ghana, especially for the public schools,
Well, we seem to have lost Genevieve. So we've got one more question.
hello, I don't know, my line keeps dropping.
Yes.
Okay.
You need to get a new president. Sorry.
My line keeps dropping. I'm sorry about that. Let me say this very quickly. We get the requests from schools and community libraries, as well as NGOs that are encouraging reading in various schools, etc. So for most of these requests, the people who request for them have a program for using these books to stock up their libraries, to encourage children to read. For example, we do a literacy program in rural Ashanti region. It's one of the regions in Ghana. We do a literacy program with Code of Canada and Asanko Gold Mines in Ghana. And we sent some of these Better World books off to the 44 schools that we work with. And because we have a literacy program that teaches teachers how to teach children to read, they use these books to also encourage the children to read. So we send them a good, how should I say, a good selection of books so that even for children who can't read or are not interested in reading, when they pick up these books, they look at the pictures and a few words here and there, and it encourages the children to read. So that's what we do in Ghana. There are some other NGOs that we work with who have reading clubs in some of these schools, so that the books are always useful to these NGOs, to the schools they work with, etc. I don't know if what I've said is useful for.
I think that's very helpful, Genevieve. Those of you who don't know Genevieve is the Ghana Book Trust. Now, the Ghana Book Trust, unlike most of our activity where we send a container of books to a particular district or a partner, the Ghana Book Trust gets many containers and they distribute them around Ghana, and they've been very good at this for many, many years. But that's a little more luxury because the people in Ghana can come and see if it's the appropriate book, whereas I think what we're talking about is a problem with someone choosing books from a list and then finding they're not quite the right ones. But it's nice to have a problem where we get the books to Africa and then they can hopefully move them to the right people anyway. So someone's waving their hand here. Yes, sir.
I was going to say just briefly, since we're in Ghana, you know, Kwame Nkrumah once was talking about uniting Africa, which was a very big dream. But the reality is that the educational system in each country is different enough from the US educational system that when you get to the more advanced books, sometimes, you know, there's a very strict curriculum like ZIMSEC in Zimbabwe or the WAEC in West Africa that, you know, the more advanced books may not fit the curriculum that's being taught. And so that's something I'm sure can be fine-tuned. And in other countries, it's easier, but depending on the educational system, it could be just a kind of, you know, two ships passing in the night on the curriculum.
Good. We've got one last question. Are tablets shipped in containers with books, or do they go via air? Erin? I think
Aaron had to jump off, but I know James Hall down in Atlanta had an answer for that. That typically we do ship those in containers, so they supplement book shipments rather than being shipped independently.
And Jim, our containers are pretty secure, aren't they? We don't have a lot of loss, do we? You might know about that.
If you're asking me, here in Atlanta, there have been a couple of occasions to where I've tried to add an item at the last minute onto something that Bruce, our shipping and receiving guy, had weighed already, and I got in trouble for it. So, so these are they're weighed and they are sealed. And so the seal is not broken until they reach customs at the other side. So they're as secure as they could be from any meddling that could go on, at least from the time it leaves our warehouse until it clears customs.
All right, so we'll close now. I just want to acknowledge Andrea from the Southern Hemisphere, but wait a minute, some of you others are from the Southern Hemisphere, but it's remarkable this meeting has got people from England and all over Africa, East, South, and West Africa, and of course all over America and down there in Atlanta, which is in the news all the time, of course. But anyway, thank you very much, everybody, and
thank you.
And
Hey, Tom, it's Gary. I had a visitor during the meeting. My doorbell rang, and look who came.
The new book.
My Barack Obama book arrived 30 minutes ago. That's a sign of something.
That's a good.
Yes, Gary. Yes, Gary. That's awesome.
Well, they only printed 1 million copies.
Nice note to end on, and thank you, everybody. I think everybody enjoyed it. It was very informative and helpful, and please keep supporting us any way you can. Books, volunteering, or money. Thank you.
Nice to see everybody.
Nice to see you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Au revoir from Brooklyn.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Yeah.
It's an honor to have you.
Come here, Roz. Bye. Good job.
Bye, everyone.
Oh, hey, Cass. Look at you. Look at you, show and tell.
Bye. Thank you very much. Thank you.
What'd you name the puppy? Unmute.
Here's Riley.
Oh.
She's from Madagascar.
What? How is that?
She's Coton de Tuliar from Madagascar.
That's a dog that people have on Madagascar?
Yeah, it's called the Royal Dog of Madagascar. Coton de Tuliar.
How did you get it?
Well, I ordered it last June. I put a deposit down and finally got her. She just woke up from a nap. She listened to the whole meeting. It's amazing. Well, thank you, all of you, and we will give another donation